Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. I am Joe Sarvati, affectionately known as Coach, and I am joined on this wonderful TGIF by Mr. Josh Crash Davis. So it looks like, Crash, we have scheduled Fridays and Saturdays now to tackle this NBA. So awesome to have you on double dip now, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think that we're going to really, crush these slates. We've got more games to dive into, so it's going to give us a little bit more of an edge on these bigger slates than we've had on these smaller slates. So I am looking forward to that.
Yeah, and it's Friday's generally a big slate. Today is no different. It's 9 solid games, and they're spread out all the way from 7 to 10 o'clock starts. The nice thing is we don't have to mess around with any strange main slates. All 3 DraftKings Fanduel and Yahoo have the 9-game main slate that locks at 7 p.m. Eastern. So that makes it a little bit easier.
Yep.
A couple things too. On Fridays, we'll be hitting all these big slates. On Saturdays is when we'll still do our regular 2 brains are better than 1 FanDuel GPP build at the end of each podcast. So that'll be tomorrow that we'll tackle that. So I'm looking forward to this. Very solid. I can't say now Saturday's my favorite podcast of the week now that we have this Friday-Saturday doubleheader. I'm going to have to find a different one. So our schedule, by the way, we've got Andrew has a PGA pod posted right now. If you're going to play weekend only, I don't know if you'll barely get it in. It locks later this morning or early afternoon for the late start. So you may, but for at least for today's action tonight, Andrew will put up the weekend only slate for PGA. So check that out. And then tomorrow we've got this podcast in the morning that we'll get out there to everybody with our 2 brains. And then at 2, I'll be jumping on with a new weekly with Gundacker. We'll be live streaming, and we'll post that link on Twitter and in our Discord. So busy weekend starting off here. I know there's no football for you this weekend, so you've got to be like, what's going on here? But so busy weekend for basketball and golf, and we're excited to dive into that. All right, man, let's get this train rolling down the tracks. Awesome night last night, too. I don't know if you saw some of my posts. It was late because the late games finished pretty darn late, but clean sweep on FanDuel, DraftKings, and Yahoo. Some really nice tickets and that qualified for. Also, pretty big takedown on Yahoo. It was a wonderful night.
Yeah, it was a good night for sure.
All right, let's keep that momentum going, my friend. A lot of news here to talk about, a lot of back-to-backs, first and second games, so we're going to cover it all. Here we go. The 9-game Friday, February the 4th, 2022 slate. Game 1, Chicago Bulls at Indiana Pacers. Chicago -3, a big fat 231.5 total, which we've got a couple of big numbers, so expect to have 400s plus, to get to those cash lines. You got to really hit the big numbers tonight. It is a 117.25 for Chicago, 114.25 for the Indiana Pacers. Coming into this game, Chicago's 32-19, Indiana 19-34. We have a probable tag for Zach LaVine, and the guys that are already out, Ball, Caruso, Jones, and Williams. For Indiana, we have a tag on Bitazzi of questionable and Brissett as questionable. So we already know Isaiah Jackson, after that gut-wrenching ankle twist, is out, along with Brogdon, McConnell, Sabonis, Turner, and Warren. My goodness, they are just slammed with injuries here. But the good news is, Crash, we've got a second night of a back-to-back for Chicago, so that could stir the pot a little bit. Island game for Indiana. Pace, not great, 19-18, but defense not great either, 19-26. So we do have some teams we can attack here, and some really good targets and some good value plays. So what do you think so far?
Yeah, so right at the start here, I'm looking at the guards for the Bulls. Kobe White and Ayo Dosunmu both have pretty nice prices. Kobe White's only 4,800 on FanDuel. I like that a lot. He had 43 DraftKings points against Indiana on December 31st. And Indiana has allowed the 6th most fantasy points to point guards. So that's where him and Dosunmu kind of fit into this situation. Of course, DeRozan has been playing very well. Got a little bit of a rough start last night, but he finished strong. I think he ended up with like 26 points. He had basically 46 DraftKings points against Indiana when they played on December 31st. And then Sabonis, if he plays, the Bulls have allowed the 3rd most fantasy points to power forwards, and he had 57 in their last matchup. So I do like Sabonis if he plays tonight.
He's already out, bro.
He's ruled out. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So with that being said, I like Vucevic because I don't think that Indiana is really going to have anyone that's going to be able to stop him. If Goga is out, if Jackson's already out, Sabonis is out. So I think Vucevic could be a good play. He's 8,700 on FanDuel. He's a little bit more. He's 9,400 on DraftKings. So don't like it as much there. Javonte Green has been a good value play for us. He's 3,500 on DraftKings. That's a really nice price. And then if with Sabonis already being ruled out, then, LeVert comes into play too as their primary scorer. He had 46.5 DraftKings points last time they played the Bulls. So I do like LeVert as well. And I think that was about it for this game for me.
Yeah, and this is interesting. I mean, the whole deal is how much are they going to play these Chicago guys?
Mm-hmm.
That last night they played a hard game, and it was it an overtime game, I believe.
Yeah, it was overtime. Yep.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, in the second half, I watched most of the second half. DeRozan was absolutely awesome. I mean, that guy. I mean, I know he's all-star, all this and that, but I'll tell you what, he's the most underrated guy in the league. I mean, they could not stop him. They were blitzing him with 2 guys and just decided we can't let this guy beat us single-handedly. They were leaving Levine open and even sometimes Vuk. So that's how good DeRozan is. But my question is, how much gas in the tank? Because I'll tell you, 2 guys that used a lot of petrol, if you will, were DeRozan and Vucevic. They played hard all the way through that overtime. So that concerns me a little bit. I like the 2 youngsters. They're growing on me more and more. Javonte Green is always so cheap. He came through for us again. He and Dosunmu both, I think, are in consideration for me. I definitely want exposure to this high game. And, I think that it's very hard to look elsewhere, when you're building your lineup and just pass this game by. You just can't. I think if you go cheap with Dosunmu and Green, that's fine. Maybe it's a Levine day because he sort of took a back seat to those 2 yesterday. At 8-9, that's reasonable enough. So he's in consideration. On the Indiana side, it's going to be hard for me to get away from LeVert. He's 8-4, and he's just going to run the entire show there. The problem is he's going to get Dosunmu defense, and that dude is a dog on defense. He is really a future NBA, all defensive team candidate. I was really impressed with him defensively. I just never trusted him offensively, But so, I mean, I'm on the fence with LeVert because it's so hard to get away from because of the usage, which is massive with all those other guys off the floor. I do want the news on the bigs, though, because if Batazi's in at 5'8", he's playable. If Brissett is in at 4K, he's playable, but not if they're both in. If they're both out, then it's Terry Taylor time again. And we saw what he did last time. So we need that news for the bigs to determine if there's a value play or not there. The other guy I'll mention who I've rostered a lot lately too, because he stayed at that mid price, is Chris Duarte. And he's going to get shots up.
Right.
He gets a lot of offensive touches. So I do like this game a lot. I think you could pay up, you could get some value. Definitely want to get the news on the Pacers bigs, but this is a good game to start off with,
Yeah, and you mentioned with Dosunmu, another thing with him is he's gotten like 35 to 40 minutes in his last 10 games, so he's getting a ton of minutes.
Yeah.
As we like to talk about, minutes equal money. So I do like Dosunmu for sure.
Yeah, and he'll get you some steals too. So that always helps. All right, we go on to the second 7 o'clock game. It is the Boston Celtics and the Detroit Pistons. Boston -8. It's a 213.5 total, 110.75 for Boston, and 102.75 for the Pistons. Boston comes in 28-25. Detroit 12-39. Nobody out for Boston. Bull. We know he had surgery. The big news for Detroit, and that's going to shift the slate a bit. Cade Cunningham questionable. Did not play yesterday. Tonight's the second night of a back-to-back. I think he plays tonight. I've counted him in on most of my projections so far. But again, that's just me. I haven't seen anything to say that that's the case. But if he is out, then we'll adjust accordingly. As far as statistically in this game, Crash, we've got Boston 24th in pace, Detroit 18th. So that's not going to help much. Boston's all the way to third now defensively. So a little tougher matchup for the Pistons in that sense. Detroit 22nd. So the question is, do you pay up for one of the bigs at Boston or look for value there? Yeah, Jackson, Livers, and Pickett, by the way, are out for Detroit as well. So what do you think? 213.5 isn't very exciting. Are you still going to look for some diamonds in this game?
This game is kind of looking like a fade for me. There's not a whole lot that I like about it. I think that, Boston could probably blow Detroit out, honestly, especially if Cade's out. I mean, if Cade's out, then it's a lot more likely. Detroit's allowed the most fantasy points to small forward, so you would think, Jaylen Brown might be a decent play. But he's a little pricey. He's 8,200 on FanDuel. He's 9,100 on DraftKings. So I don't know if I want to pay that on the 9-game slate. And then a little bit of a cautionary tale with Saddiq Bey. I know he had that 50-point game last time out, but Boston has allowed the fewest fantasy points to small forwards. But on the flip side of that, he did have 50 DraftKings points against him actually when he faced him on February 12th in 2021. So not sure how I feel about Saddiq Bey tonight. But if Cunningham's out, he's more of a scoring option for them. And that's about it for me on this game. There wasn't a whole lot here that I liked.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's not my favorite game at all. I think the Boston guys are too expensive in a slow-paced game here to pay up for the two big guys in Brown and Tatum. I mean, Smart 5-7, Williams 7, that's still a little too expensive because you're getting a lot of contribution from Richardson, Schroeder, Williams, those guys. So not excited on that side. If Cunningham's in, definitely not looking really to go strong with anybody here. If he's out, though, there is a lot of usage that has to get somewhere. Jeremy Grant is working his way back. He looked pretty good last night. I don't know, though, if they push him on a back-to-back after being out so long.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I'll probably pass on him, but I'm keeping an eye on him. Corey Joseph at 4-3, he's okay. I like him, especially if Cunningham sits. But you got a ton from Frank Jackson last night, who we were toying with having in the lineup too.
Right.
And again, this game could be lopsided. Just, with Hayes and Diallo and Olynyk and Lyles contributing with Frank Jackson off the bench. Just doesn't feel good. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
If Cade plays, I still think, it's 8-3 is too big of a number. And not with Marcus Smart and Jaylen Brown's defense and Tatum. I think this is going to be a full pass, bro, the more I look at it.
Yeah. This is probably the least favorite game for me on this slate. All
right. We go to the third 7 o'clock game. It's Cleveland Cavaliers at the Charlotte Hornets. Charlotte's favored by 4.5, 218.5 total, 107 for Cleveland, 111.5 for the Charlotte Hornets. Cleveland comes in 31-21, Charlotte at 28-24. We know that Garland and Markkanen continue to be out for Cleveland. Everybody else is a go. Possible return for Gordon Hayward. He's questionable. That's important news to know. and we know that McDaniels remains out. So a couple of, that whole news with Hayward is going to be important for us to, I think, formulate if this game is playable or not. Cleveland is 25th in pace, so major pace down for Charlotte, but Charlotte's second. So the Cleveland guys that are in are really going to benefit from that pace. Defensively, Cleveland's fourth. So again, a deterrent for Charlotte guys. And then 24th defensively for Charlotte. So another plus for Cleveland. And on top of that, to pile on, it's the first night of a back-to-back for Charlotte, and it is an island game for Cleveland. So, man, I mean, Cleveland as an underdog here is super tempting, and it just fits DFS-wise. So are you going Cavs?
Yeah, I've got a couple Cavs here that I like, especially if Darius Garland's out. 4,100 for Brandon Goodwin. That's a good value play. And then their bigs. Charlotte's allowed the fourth most fantasy points to power forwards and the third most to centers. And I actually like Evan Mobley and Kevin Love more than Jared Allen in this matchup. Kevin Love scored 40-plus in his last 5 games. He's only 6,900 on DraftKings, so he's definitely producing. Jared Allen has scored less than 40 in his last 8, so he's not hitting the value that we need from him. So Mobley, he's 7,600. He's a little bit more on DraftKings. He's also in play for me. So those would be my 3 favorite guys from Cleveland. On the Charlotte side, I like the value with Cody Martin. He's been pretty good value play for us. LaMelo Ball, he's a little expensive. He's 9,600 on DraftKings. He has scored 50-plus in 3 of his last 4 DraftKings points. He had 63.5 Wednesday night against Boston. So he would be in play, but not my favorite pay up on this slate.
Yeah, this is an interesting game. I do have a narrative here, and you're not going to like this one, to be honest with you. But I looked at all the all-star selections for the reserves last night, and LaMelo Ball didn't make it.
Did he not?
It's shocking to me because he's been fantastic. And the guy that I think didn't deserve it, and I know you'll argue this, but I don't think Middleton deserved it. He's missed a ton of games. He hasn't been the number one option. It's always Giannis, of course. Holiday has stepped up. I mean, Middleton's a good, really good player. But this year in this situation, LaMelo Ball's numbers are just destroying Middleton's numbers. So
I wouldn't put him in over Middleton. I mean, I wouldn't put Middleton over. I wouldn't have put Middleton in over LaMelo Ball. I mean, I didn't know he was not in there. So,
and that's for a Bucks fan,
right? But I mean, that's just common sense to me. I mean, just watching these guys play, Ball's their leading. He does almost everything for them in a lot of nights. So,
absolutely. So I know he's 9'6", and that's a crazy number. I know Cleveland plays great defense, but I'm really going to target LaMelo. I think he comes out. He's certainly the kind of guy that has a chip on his shoulder. I think people are going to see the 218.5 total, the 9.6 price on Ball, and Cleveland's third-ranked defense, and he's going to be lowly owned. But I think he has something to prove. I think he comes out there and makes a statement. I really do. And on the other side, I like Brandon Goodwin as well. He's only 4-1. He's going to get all those starting point guard minutes. He'll be backed up by Rondo, but he has proven that he can play. And with the pace up for Charlotte, I think Goodwin's a great play here at 4-1. So those are the 2 guys I'm targeting right off the bat. A lot of the other guys I'm maybe going to eliminate a little bit. I think Mobley is going to get guarded by Miles Bridges, who I respect. Again, you're right. Jared Allen has not turned it up a notch in quite some time. You just get a decent contribution, but for 7-9, you need more than decent. Kevin Love is dangerous at 6'9". He's been such a great force for them off the bench, so you can consider him. But for me, really, it's going to be the dueling point guards here in this game is where I'm most interested. All right, game 4, sir. It is a 7:30 game. Finally, we move on to the next level of games. It's the Atlanta Hawks, Toronto Raptors. Toronto -2, 217 total, 107.5 implied for Atlanta, 109.5 for the Toronto Raptors. Atlanta comes in 25-26, Toronto 27-23. Injuries, you have John Collins questionable, obviously, very important news. We know Lou Williams is out. For Toronto, Goran Dragic out. I don't even know why we even mentioned him anymore. He's never going to play there.
Future Dallas Maverick, you said?
I think that's the rumor around here. So I know they're going after him. The really tough twist here is second night of a back-to-back for both teams. So that will shake the kettle a little bit. Not that Nick Nurse seems to care. Again, he's just playing his guys like 50 minutes, and there's only 48 in a regulation game. So he's playing them a lot. But, he's pounding these guys into the ground. I don't know what gives. But, that's a tough call. Second night of back-to-back. You've got really lousy pace here, though, Crash. So I'm wondering if that scares you away. 23rd and 29th in pace. So they're going to slow this bucket down. But defensively, poor. 27 Atlanta, 17 for Toronto. So I don't know. Tough one to consider. Slow pace, but bad D. And you've got some guys that can score it, but are they all going to get full run on the second night of a back-to-back?
Yeah, that's the question. I definitely think that Gary Trent Jr. Is in a good spot. He had a letdown game last night, but Atlanta's allowed the 7th most fantasy points to shooting guards. He had 46 when he went up against Atlanta Monday night. He had 40 in his 5 straight games prior to that, to last night. So he's definitely been playing very well, and this is a good spot for him to bounce back tonight. So I definitely like Gary Trent at 6,400 on DraftKings. Van Fleet you could look at as well. He had 45 against them Monday night. Atlanta's allowed the 10th most fantasy points to point guards. They're just a team that we like to attack their guards pretty consistently. So both guards in play for me. You could look at Siakam. He's a little bit more. He's 9,200. He did have 45 against Atlanta Monday night, so solid numbers there. Trae Young didn't play in that game. And Toronto's allowed the second fewest fantasy points to point guard, so I'm not sure I want to look at Trae Young. Kevin Huerter might be a decent value play, but again, that could be because the numbers he put up were because Trae Young was out, so I'm not sure if I want to go there. Same kind of thing with Bogdanovic, and that's probably about it for me in this game.
Yeah, I mean, it's not my favorite game either. I think you're going to get – I mean, it's hard to say Toronto's going to use their bench a little bit because they haven't. I know he said like 2 weeks ago he was going to a 10-man rotation. That has not happened. I guess he didn't say exactly when, maybe next year, but I haven't seen any of it. On the back-to-back, the one thing I will say, congratulations to Fred VanVleet, though. He made the all-star roster. And that's the first guy in a long time as an undrafted player. How about that? Undrafted player making an all-star team. So
that's
goes
awesome.
to show you. Not always the studs that get it done.
Right.
But at 8-6 on a back-to-back, I think that's a lot to bite off, especially since he leads the league in minutes. You may see a little wear and tear, especially on these back-to-backs. Trent, even though he had an off night last night, he hit a massive 3 right at the end of that game. So I like that call at 6-4. I think he's playable for sure. Anunoby 7-4 is almost there for me, not quite. But, you've got the thing with Toronto is with Barnes, Siakam, and Achua, and now Boucher, who had a good game off the bench for them, they do have a few guys to go to. They just don't go very deep. So it's tempting. Atlanta's not a good defensive team. But I don't want to spend way up, so I'd go probably cheaper Trent Anunoby or Barnes, although Siakam was part of that winning lineup for me last night, so I really do appreciate that. But I think some of it has to do, Crash, if Collins is in or out, because if Collins is in and they have that big Collins Capella, really 2 guys that can play center all the time, they may have to put Achua or Boucher in there, which will take a little bit of rebounds from Siakam and some playing time from a few of the other guys, like in a domino effect. So, just not my favorite game. I don't want to pay 9-9 for Young in this situation either. So this could be one of those pass games. I think there's like 3 or 4 really high total games, and they're all not, they're not pretenders. They're real true games, I think, and that's where I'm going to get most of my players.
Yeah.
All right, Chief. How about an 8:30 game? Would that work for you?
Let's do it.
Houston Rockets and San Antonio Spurs. We have a winner here, so yell bingo. How about 234.5? That's pretty healthy.
Yeah.
And the Spurs are favored by only 3.5. 115.5 for Houston, 119 for San Antonio. And I know I always mention it, but when you get implied totals for both teams that are over 115, that gets my attention. Not that it's so close that if it's just under, it doesn't matter. But this is significant because when you get to these levels for both teams, you're talking about increased possessions, which mean a lot more increased DFS points.
Right.
So the fact that these teams are looking pretty healthy, we have Garuba and Wall out for Houston, McDermott, and then DeJounte Murray. So DeJounte Murray is going to be the news of the night. He's questionable. So if he's in with no limits, super, super great target. If he's out, it does open some things up for some other guys. But guess what, Josh? We've got Pop on the second night of a back-to-back.
Yep, that's the very first thing that stood out to me in this game.
That's terrifying.
Even before DeJounte Murray, if he's going to play or not. So that is very, very scary. DeJounte Murray, you talked about LaMelo Ball earlier being an all-star snub. DeJounte Murray being an all-star snub to me is just ridiculous, especially when you consider that Andrew Wiggins is a starter on this roster. It just doesn't make any sense. But anyway,
DeJounte Murray has been, second team All NBA for me. If I made out my list, I mean, he's done everything for that team. Problem is they're 19 and 34. So I see why people are squawking about that, but the bottom line, he's dominated, as far as the LaMelo Ball argument, they're 28 and 24 and in the playoffs. So that's the part that makes that just as egregious. But I agree with you. If there was one guy from the West that I can't believe isn't in there, it's DeJounte Murray. But I think, this is my guess, already Draymond Green said he's not going to play. I think DeJounte takes that spot. That's my guess.
Yeah. That would make sense.
He deserves it.
Yeah.
But anyway, we need that news. The other guys out for San Antonio are Bates, Job, Collins, Landell, and Pirtle. So still the two big guys, Landell and Pirtle. But, we saw Young and Eubanks yesterday, and you never know on the second night of a back-to-back what Pop's going to do. So I'm interested to see what your take is there. Quickly, statistically, it's a bonanza for DFS. How about 1st and 8th in pace? Gotta love that. Dead last 30th and 20th in defense. So how many guys are too many for this game? That's the $1 million question. You can easily fill half your roster from this game alone. What do you think?
Well, my concern with this game is based on what happened last time they played, and that was on January 25th. So just a little over a week ago, they played, and San Antonio won by 30 points. It was 134 to 104. And I remember rostering DeJounte Murray in that game, and he let me down because he didn't get the minutes that he would have normally gotten. So he didn't get over the 60. It's like 60 plus DraftKings points he's averaged against Houston. So I definitely like DeJounte Murray if it's a close game. If he even plays, that's another thing we have to find out. If he plays and it's close, I do like him. Now, if he doesn't play, Trey Jones has been a good value play. He's 3,700 on DraftKings. He had 26 against Miami last night and 32.3 against Phoenix on Sunday night. So that's good value there at only 3,700. And if you do think this game's going to blow out, you could look at Sengun, because last time they played, him and Christian Wood basically had the same amount of production. So at only 3,400, you're getting a lot better value with Sengun than you would with Christian Wood if this game is a blowout.
Yeah, Sengun's a risk, though. I don't understand why he's not getting consistent minutes off the bench. I mean, it's so disappointing because he was so good when they needed him,
Yeah.
Yeah,
If Murray
I mean,
plays,
I don't think this game blows out personally. I do think DeJounte Murray plays. That's just what I have projected right now. We'll see what that news is. But I think, he may be the best pay up guy on the slate. You've got all these reasons here: the great pace, the poor defense, the chip on the shoulder for not making the All-Star roster.
Yeah.
If he sat out just to set out yesterday because of the back-to-back and he's going to be unleashed today, he could be an absolute monster. And the Houston backcourt absolutely reeks defensively. Porter, Green, Gordon, they could not guard you and I and Tyler. I think the three of us could get stay in a game with those three. Just kidding, obviously. It's going to be all news driven there because it's going to shape my entire slate. Because if I pay 10-5 for Murray, you're talking that's going to be your key guy. But it just feels like if Houston keeps it close, the pace and defense is what it is. It's like a 70 burger type situation for Murray. So I'll be watching the news like crazy. Check us out, jump in Discord with us this afternoon. We'll be following all of this very closely because that's going to be a big piece. Like you said, if Murray sits, Jones, White's in play, those guys I think you can trust. Then you've got to, how are they going to split the minutes with Young and who is it? Who's their other Eubanks? Because I mean, that's the thing. If they're going to split, you can't afford on a slate like this to go there. But if Young's going to get the majority of the minutes, he's still the dead min 3K.
Yeah.
And Eubanks is 3-3. So we just need news. Isn't it comforting knowing we need news about Pop's team on the second night of a back-to-back?
Yeah, it's like the worst case scenario.
Oh, God. Yeah. But it could be the difference maker in the entire deal,
Yeah, for sure. But if Murray
other than that, on the Houston side, KPJ's been solid. He's 6'9". Jalen Green's been showing more offensive prowess at 4'3". Wood at 8'7" is going to get all the minutes. And, he's usually having to go against these giant centers. And he's more like a 4/5, if you ask me. I think he'd be a perfect guy to play a 4 with a true center. But at least he gets the fact he doesn't have to face that Goliath in Pirtle. He gets to go against really other 4s, if you will, in a Thad Young. Drew Eubanks, I'm not sure which you'd want to call him, but I do like Wood here too. But 8-7 is a hard one to bite off. But I do want definite exposure from both sides, and I think this could be the key game of the night. And at 234.5, it should be, but I think it deserves to, depending on the Murray news.
Who else do you like besides Wood for Houston?
Either Porter or Green in the backcourt.
Okay.
I think, again, it's all has to do with who plays, who's in and out. If Murray's one of the best defenders in the league, I think he gives Porter huge trouble. So I'd go Green there. But if Murray plays or doesn't play, then I think Porter pretty much, Jones and those guys can't guard him anywhere near to that level.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because if Murray plays, and he's going to give Porter fits, but if he doesn't, then Porter's definitely in play for me. Yeah. And then if Murray play, or if Murray doesn't play, then I'm not even going to consider Sengun, because I think that game will definitely stay close if Murray's out. So
yeah. I mean, there's lots to unpack with this game, and we may not have that news, knowing Pop, of course. It's an 8:30 game. So the nice thing, though, is you don't have to sweat it. If you want to put some of these guys in, like if I put Murray in there, it's not like I'm not going to have a chance to late swap, because, there's 4 more games after this one.
Right.
So we have all kinds of opportunities. You don't want to go in without a plan. I generally have a plan. If this happens, then here's who I'm going to look at. And, at least get that set in your mind so you don't get, screwed out of a bunch of salary or something because you have them in the wrong position.
Yeah.
All right.
Leave it open for Luka or somebody like that. So.
Yes, definitely. All right, we are 5 down with 4 to go. Real quickly, if you're watching right now on YouTube, quick thumbs up, hit the like button. We'd really appreciate that with that thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button as well. Give us a quick comment. That helps us move up the algorithm on YouTube. And while you're at it, hit that little alarm. That bell in the upper corner alerts you when any of our podcasts post. Right now, we have 7-day-a-week NBA podcast, weekly PGA, and then, of course, the big, giant Super Bowl podcast that will be coming up here this coming week. Definitely also, if you want to join us, go to dfscoachtalk.com. All kinds of different memberships to choose. We'd love to have you join us and check us out, dip your toe in the water. Friday's always the best day to do it. You get Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all the action in basketball and golf. Our 3-day pass is only $10, so it is definitely worth a try. If you're listening audio podcast wise, Spotify, Podbean, or a combination thereof, maybe they're going to merge. Maybe the news hasn't broken yet.
Predicting the future,
also, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, we're everywhere. But if you check us out audio-wise, give us a quick 5 stars, whatever the top rating is, and a quick comment, 2-3 words. You will be put into a contest that we draw for a full 1-week full access membership to Coach Talk for at the end of the month. So definitely want to join that. And remember, when you join us, you get everything we've got. We don't go by sport like some of these sites will charge you $300 for this and $700 for that and $400. You join, you're part of the family, you get everything. You get any access to me one-on-one for strategy sessions. You get all of our lineups, which we provide a Draftkings coaches clipboard, which is 5 highlighted players for basketball, for example. That changes per sport, how many are highlighted, and then a pool of other players to choose from. We also give out 2 lineups every day on FanDuel and Yahoo, a cash/hybrid, which we call our single entry GPPs, and then a second one, which are the multi-entry GPPs for both. So we've got you covered from beginning to end, backwards, sideways, through the NBA lock it in the evening, through the late swap. We are there for you, so come join us. All right, we switched to the Final Four. We've got a 2 9 o'clock and 2 10 o'clock games. Pretty easy to determine here. So we got the New Orleans Pelicans against the Denver Nuggets. Denver favored by 6, 222.5 total, 108.25 for New Orleans, and 114.25 for the Denver Nuggets. Pels come in 19 and 32. The Nugs come in 28 and 23. Josh Hart questionable for the Pelicans. That's a concern, and that shuffles the deck. The guys that we already know are out are Hernan Gomez, Luzada, Temple, and Cheeseburgers Williamson. For Denver, Cousins questionable, so maybe Joker's backup in or out. Nice to know that. Kanchar and Murray remain out as they have been for quite some time. As far as statistically, bad pace here, 20 and 22, but worse defense. 25th New Orleans, Denver 18th. What do you think there, Crash? What's this shaping up? The 222.5 interest you here?
Yeah, a little bit. Joker's really had his way with New Orleans, and I definitely like him in this matchup. He is very expensive. He's 12-4 on DraftKings. He's a little bit more palatable on FanDuel. He's 11-2 over there. New Orleans has allowed the 9th most fantasy points to centers. He had 67 in DraftKings points against them last Friday, and then on December 8th, he had 73. So he's definitely been putting up some big numbers against New Orleans. Yeah. And on the value side for Denver, I like Monte Morris. He's been playing really well. He's 4,900 on DraftKings. He had 37.5 against them last Friday against New Orleans. And then on New Orleans, Herbert Jones has been playing well. He's 5,200 on DraftKings. He had 42.3 against Denver last Friday. And Denver's allowed the 5th most fantasy points to power forward. So it's a good matchup for him.
Yeah. This game's hard for me. I mean, if I change my mind on the LaMelo Ball situation and all of that, then Joker, he's got to be on everybody's board as the best buy-up. Let's face it. I know 12-4 is crazy expensive, but he can even break the slate at that number, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
He's capable of an 80 something, and then you got to chase points. But it is a big commitment at 12-4. I mean, Denver's favored by 6. The thing that scares me is, especially if Hart's out, because he is literally the heart of that team when he's out there. And I think there is potential for Denver to smoke them a bit here. But again, you can't really predict blowout on a 6-point spread. But I don't know. I mean, the jury's out for me. I, of course, would love to have Joker if we didn't have a salary problem here. But
right.
I'm going to consider that. Really, after that, you do get some bonus pricing, I think. I think Barton's too cheap at 6. I think Aaron Gordon's cheap for 5, 6. And those two guys interest me a lot. And then right now, though, if Cousins does play, Najee, Rivers, Forbes, Highland, Bones has had some really good games. Their bench is all of a sudden pretty deep. So that is a concern as far as rostering the other guys. For the Pels, it's a tough call. When Ingram's in at 8-2, that's a pretty big price. But if Hart sits, it does open some value. If you want to look at a Devontae Graham or a Herb Jones, those guys 5-4 and 5-2 respectively are playable. I'm not going to touch Joe Val today. He has a propensity to get in foul trouble, and trying to guard the Joker is not the best solution for foul issues. So not crazy at that 8-5 number there. So not my favorite game, but certainly could have some value pricing guys that are below that mid-level I think could fit and make the lineup work.
Yeah. What about Jackson Hayes? Any love for him or no?
Possibly. I mean, it's possible. I played him last time out. He's only 4.2, and he is a decent points per minute guy. And they have been trying that Jackson Hayes, Jones at the 3 with Hayes and Joe Val. So, I mean, it's possible because Denver probably matches with Gordon, Green, and Joker. All 6 of those guys are big guys. So it's possible at 4.2. I'd have to know that he's going to start. If he's going to start, very possible could make it. But if he's coming off the bench, no.
Makes sense.
All right, man. Second 9:00 game. Brooklyn Nets, Utah Jazz. Utah favored by 5. A nice, healthy 228.5. See what I mean, man? We've got a lot of big DFS points. So you better get the eyeballs out for your scores being in the 400s tonight if you want to make some hay. 111.75 for Brooklyn, 116.75 for Utah. So nice high scoring predictions here. Brooklyn 29-22, Utah 31-21. This is a good game. You've got guys out already for Brooklyn: Aldridge, Durant, Harris, and Millsap. And I read yesterday Harris is probably going to have a second surgery on that ankle, so he may be lost for the year, unfortunately. For Utah, the question mark on Whiteside is important because Gobert's out again. So we could have that Ali shuffle here with the bigs in Utah. So we need that news. Clarkson is also questionable. And now, the fact that they lost Joe Ingles for the season with a torn ACL, probably ending his career, I would believe, at his age. But that really changes things up here. But guess who's back?
Donovan Mitchell.
So all of the, minuses are now positives because even without Gobert and Ingles and maybe Clarkson and Whiteside, you've got Donovan. The Chief is back. But how much does he play? We need to grab, coach speak and beat writer info and follow that very closely. Because with Clarkson and Whiteside questionable, Gobert and House out, there are lots of minutes to be had there. And, they do have a decent enough bench that they don't have to stress out Mitchell right off the bat. So this is going to be a pivotal game where the information is going to be crucial. Good pace here. Brooklyn 4th, Utah 13th. Decent defense. Brooklyn 16th, Utah 13th there as well. So they're the 13th pace, 13th defense. I don't know if that's a bad luck sign for Utah or what, but This should be very interesting, man. Both teams on an island game, though. So what do you think? Is Mitchell even playable at 8-4?
I mean, he could be 8,400, decent price. But again, the concern is going to be how many minutes is he going to play? Because normally you would just think, yeah, it's an obvious play. He's going to get all that usage with everybody that's out for Utah, but that may not be the case, which is kind of why I'm looking at Bojan Bogdanovic. He's 5,100 on FanDuel, so he's a really nice price over there. 6,500 on DraftKings, so a little bit more on DraftKings. But definitely in play for me on FanDuel. And this Azubuike kid, he's 3,400 on DraftKings. He had 8 points and 10 rebounds against Denver on Wednesday for 24.5 DraftKings points. So good value there at 3,400. So that would probably be my primary plays. I think that, Harden and Irving, they're gonna probably be a little bit held back. Mitchell's a pretty good defender. Who's going to be shooting guard for Utah with Clarkson out and Ingles?
Well, it'll be Conley and Mitchell starting in the backcourt. Then you're going to get Trent. Yeah, and then Trent Forrest, I believe, will be the first guard off the bench for them.
Yeah. So Conley and Mitchell are both good defenders. So I think they'll probably slow Irving and Harden down quite a bit. So really just Bogdanovic and Mitchell and possibly Azubuike for me in this matchup.
Yeah, it's hard here. I don't trust Mitchell at that price, just coming back. I mean, he could do great, but it's risky. Conley at 7K is a little too much for me. Bogdanovic at 6.5 makes sense because he can score the ball. But if Whiteside plays, I think he's playable at 6.4. If not, I agree with you. You may where you can play more than one center because you don't want to just use your center spot for Azubuike. But he is playable at 3.4. If he's going to get the minutes, he can get you 10 and 10, no doubt about it. But we need to see that news for sure. And then for the Nets, this isn't a game where I really want to buy up for Harden at 11.4 or Irving at 10.3. It's just too much of a sacrifice when you have two studs like that on the same team with a decent defensive backcourt that they're facing on the road, higher elevation in Utah. I just don't. I mean, yes, Harden and Irving, they're always capable of breaking any slate, but not for me on this matchup with all the other good buy-ups available. Patty Mills at 5.6, he seems to always get to his number. That guy is so gutsy. The big question is on the bigs. Do you give Nicholas Claxton a shot at 4.9? He's bit us in the butt before, but, he is a decent play with no Aldridge in there at 4.9, especially if they go to the backup center, the third string center in Azubuike.
Right.
So Claxton is actually on my radar. I hate to say it. I said he was dead to us, but I will think about the feasibility there because he's sub 5K, could get a decent run. James Johnson is a flyer at 3.8, but we've seen him have some really good games, so you can consider it. But really not into this game like I thought I would be. So of all the high-scoring games, this is the one I'll be holding my breath and hopefully be able to get by with very little, ownership.
Right. Yeah, Claxton, he had that huge game last game, and I was so close to playing him, I was kicking myself.
I know, and that's what makes me more nervous about, then, clicking him this time because I had him in my initial build last time and didn't play him either. But, so I don't know. Jury's out. I don't know if I'll have the courage to do that, but I may.
Yeah.
All right. We got 2 10 o'clock games, brother, and we're going to hit those right now. Oklahoma City Thunder and Portland Trailblazers, 2 teams on the first night of a back-to-back to, rustle it up here. Portland's favored by 8. 214 is the total. 103 implied for Oklahoma City, 111 for the Portland Trailblazers. And the Thunder come in at 16-34 after just beating the Dallas Mavericks in Dallas. That was fun. Dirk fell off the wall. I had to pin him back up there.
Put him back up there, yeah.
It was disgusting. They're 16-34. Portland's 21-31. A lot of guys out here. SGA still out. Krejcik, Robinson, Earl, Roby, and Wiggins. All those guys are out. So thinner bench for Oklahoma City. And they haven't had many injuries all year, so it's a lot of guys out. Portland, I get to see the flopping hair of Ellaby. More than likely, he's probable. Nance and Watford, questionable. So maybe the return of Larry Nance. We haven't seen him in a quick minute. And then we know Lillard and Zeller are out. Statistically, we've got 14th and 15th in pace. So I would say that's pretty close to dead average. 12th for Oklahoma City in defense. How about that? The Dorcher Chamber and company getting it done on D. Portland, no, 28th. They're giving up a bunch of points. So this game gives me a stomach ache just looking at it. I'm interested to get your take on it. What do you think on this Thunder Trailblazers game?
There's not a lot here for me, but I do like Dort. He's been playing really well. He's 6,400 on DraftKings. He had 46, 35, and 47 in his last 3 games. He did have 35 against Portland Monday, so solid numbers there for that price. Giddey on FanDuel is somewhat in play at 6,000, but at 7,700 on DraftKings, I don't want to go there. And then as a value play, you could look at Darius Bazley. He's starting to produce a little bit more like he was last year for Oklahoma City. So I do like Bazley a little bit. And statistically, this is the best matchup for CJ McCollum, but he didn't really come anywhere near that last time they played against the Thunder. And at 8,300, it may not be worth the risk.
Yeah, I mean, if there's ever been an example of why you need to have a little bit of exposure playing DraftKings and FanDuel, it's this type of situation. When you get a guy on FanDuel, Josh Giddey at 6K, he's pretty much plug and play for me. But on FanDuel, on DraftKings, where he's 7-7, he's not quite going to make the cut. So again, sometimes you have these $2,000 difference in prices where one of the sites is getting it wrong, and it's nice to be able to take advantage of that. Dort has been tough, but he's jumped to 6'4". That's a bit of a concern. I'll tell you, the kid that's decent is Decate, the new center they've been playing. He's got double potential. Remember Czech Diallo that's played for a couple of years?
Yep.
The Grizzlies and guys, that's who he reminds me of. He's a little bit of an undersized center. He's more of a power forward / center, caught in between, but he can fly through the sky, man. He can get up. Not a good shooter from the outside per se, but very active rebounding, can get you stocks. And if he's going to get enough minutes at the Deadman 3K, he could be a path to really loading up for a second, buy-up guy. So I'm going to consider him here just because I'd like to get out in front of that. If he throws a 25 or 30 on the board, then everybody's going to be racing over to him. But I think he's interesting here. Not a dead, cinch, but I think somebody to talk about if you don't want to go up to Dort or Giddey. But again, FanDuel Giddey's a great play. Portland, Simons has been steady at 6'6". McCollum at 8'3" is a little expensive now, especially with the fact that I think McCollum will get the Dorcher Chamber more than likely, which is no fun for anybody. Powell at 6'7" can have solid games, same as Covington at 5'5". So if you're grabbing the right guy in a situation, they both may have decent matchups here that they can take advantage of. So they're in play at those prices because it really does help to have some mid-level build guys. Nurkic a little much for me at 8'2". We'll see if Portland, they haven't been blowing people out. So, and the Thunder coming off a Dallas victory, you would think they are playing with a little confidence. So it may be, you may need to have some exposure, even though it's only a 2-14 game, if everybody's getting full minutes down the stretch.
Yeah. You were talking about Diakante earlier, and I was thinking, Milwaukee probably wishes they wouldn't have got rid of him because they don't really have any bigs besides Portis right now. And he was kind of in and out of their G League and on the roster off and on last year. So that would have been somebody they probably should have kept.
Yeah, at least as a backup, emergency backup, you would think he'd be solid. I'd personally take him over, a few of their guys, maybe even Thanasis, but, you don't want to cut the little brother of the franchise.
Yeah.
I'd take his brother, his cousin, his uncle, as long as he stayed with me, I'd take them all. All right, we go to the late game, and now you can whine. I can do the whining, and you can make fun of me because I have to stay up till 10.
Oh yeah.
For the Mavericks. What the heck? We're going to be sleeping here before this game starts in Dallas. It's the exact same scenario the other night. They wanted to put this game on TV, so then we need to lose sleep. I'll do the Tom and Jerry thing where you put the tape on the eyes pretty much at this point. But it is the Philadelphia 76ers at the Dallas Mavericks at 10 p.m. game. Dallas favored by 1.5, but a scant 212.5. So is there going to be any exposure here? You've got a bunch of bad mixed things here. You've got great defense, terrible pace. So let's talk about this game. Dallas 1.5, 212.5 total, 105.5. Philly 107 for the Dallas Mavericks. Dallas limps into this game after losing back-to-back to the Orlando Magic and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Yes, you heard that correctly. Dirk, plug your ears. Too late. Yeah, how bad is that to lose to those two teams back-to-back?
Yeah.
Well, how are they going to do against Philly is the question.
Yeah.
Philly's 31-20. Dallas is 29-23. Seth Curry questionable, and very important piece of news because when he plays, he's been getting 40 minutes. Korkmaz, Milton, and Simmons out for Philly. For Dallas, we know Brown, Hardaway, and tissue paper Porzingis still out with a hangnail, or it's his toenail. I'm sorry. But so that makes this tough, man. I have no confidence the way the Mavs are playing, but they do have a tendency to play to the level of their competition, one of those agitating things, So let's look at the numbers here. Philly 26, Dallas 27th in pace. So not good. Two top 10 defenses. Philly 10th on the rise. Dallas 5th. Great defense the last couple of months. So all those scenarios scared the living daylights out of me here, the way Dallas is playing. All these numbers. We've got this Luka and Embiid scenario, two of the guys that have, really been right up there with in the top 5 in DFS points this month. What are you doing here, man? This game just perplexes the hell out of me.
Yeah, it's tough. So Luka has scored 71, 71, and 64 in his last 3 games. You're the Mavs guy, so tell me if you think he can do something like that, in this matchup.
I mean, he's capable of, against anybody ever, to throw a 70 on the board. It's just he's a walking triple-double. He's one of the best DFS scorers, but my concern is I'm not going to go there. I'll just let me jump the gun. He's 11-9. This is a walking pace. He's got, when he makes those moves into the paint, he's got Embiid back there. He's going to get Thibault harassing the crap out of him. So, and the Mavs are playing like dog doo-doo. So that's sort of what I think about Luka.
Okay.
And that hurts to say because he's been phenomenal.
No, I understand that. So for me, then I would probably look at Tyrese Maxey, 7,600 on DraftKings. He's 7,700 on FanDuel, almost the same price. And then, we like to attack the Mavericks with bigs. Obviously, Embiid is one of the best, but he's 12-3. So that's a real consideration you have to take there.
Yeah.
And that's probably about it for me. Would be those 3 guys were the main guys I was looking at. And I don't know if I'm going to play any of them, honestly, but those were the only ones for this game that stood out.
Yeah, I mean, for me right now, the biggest decision I have is whether I want to just, unload the vault for Embiid. It's hard. I mean, the Mavericks, although they're playing bad, their defense is still solid, and the pace of this game is just so horrific. But like you say, we attack bigs. Dallas plays terrible defense in the paint. So Embiid, certainly a phenomenal pay-up play. He would be the one guy from this game. If I punted on not taking those other pay up guys. I mean, it's possible, but 12-3 is such a tough number. And, it just reeks of though, he could get to 48, 52, but that's not good enough,
Right.
So,
yeah, we need 70 plus from him.
Yeah, and I just don't know if that's going to be available in this game. I haven't decided yet. He would be the target that I'd go to on Philly. Seth Curry, a little bit of a revenge game if he does play at 5-1 is a good price because Dallas sort of gave up on him for Josh Richardson in a bowl of soup, basically. So, Curry would be a decent play, I think, at that price if he's in. Maxey's been just off the wall phenomenal. There's no doubt about it. But again, at 7-6 at this pace, it's not quite the perfect scenario that he's had the last few games. And if Curry's back, that takes enough away from Maxey too. After that, really, there's nobody on the Mavericks that I would take if they were $5 at this point. I'm just so disgusted. I mean, Brunson, I should take that back. Brunson at 6.5 is reasonable. But as far as Finney-Smith, Kleba, Powell, Green, Chris, Ntilikina, you can dump those guys right in. Are you by any body of water there that we can see if they can all swim? Because they've been useless lately. I will say this, though. Reggie Bullock at 4.5 off the bench has been on fire. He's shooting like 60% from three in the last couple of weeks. He's just literally on fire. But he's coming off the bench. And the pace just isn't conducive, but somebody to watch out for down the road. So as you can tell, I'm a little bitter on the Mavs right now. Not that I'm not a Mavs fan, I'm not giving up the ship, but if you want to be a playoff contending team, you can't lose to the Magic and Thunder back to back. So a little sour.
I get it.
So it's pretty much Embiid or bust for me, I guess, in this last game. But I just don't
what
know.
about Maxey? You said you liked him.
Yeah, I do, but 7-6 in this type of pace scares me. That's the only problem. He's going to get Brunson defense, and Brunson's scrappy.
True.
So, the sad thing is I may have to go blanks here, ride this last game with nothing, which would really sting. But right now, I've just, other than Embiid, if I pull the trigger there, I just don't feel real comfortable anywhere else.
Yeah.
That's it, my friend. We better get rocking and rolling here. We've had a long one. It's a good 9-gamer. We needed to break them all down. Should be a fantastic card. Can't really make any mistakes tonight. You got to hit the good ones. Those 17 or 18-point dud that you put in there will sink the ship. So, all big numbers. We're going to have all of our info posted. Come join us, dfscoachtalk.com. Any final words there, Crash?
No, I'm ready to see what happens tonight. Be watching the news all day and sit back and watch some games.
Fantastic. And we'll have the pod up pretty early tomorrow morning, probably around 10:30-ish. We'll post that info. And don't forget, tomorrow, Crash and I will also choose the 2 brains are better than 1 FanDuel GPP lineup. So we would love to see you again tomorrow to join us. So thank you so much for tuning in. Crash, excited to be doing these Friday, Saturday back-to-backs with you.
Absolutely.
And hopefully it helps everybody build some really big winners.
Yep.
All right. Have a great Friday. Enjoy it. Make it a 3-day weekend. Take the afternoon off if you're listening to this. Tell your boss, Coach said, afternoon off, it's 3-day weekend. So see if that works for you. But, be careful. All right. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. We'll be back in the morning again when we look to crush it in NBA DFS.